He asked whether the federal government has certain pet projects that they would fund before they look at the other applications. I don't believe so. Of course, I'm not there when they're making these decisions, but I believe that all of the applications are reviewed. And they have a group. I've been to one session where I was actually helping an organization that was working with federal reviewers. So I got to see how they did it. And they had them all in a group, and the three people who reviewed a particular application would kind of give a presentation to the rest of the group and saying what the strengths and weaknesses were and how many points they were going to give for X, Y, and Z. And then they kind of battled it out, because someone would say, well, I thought that section was weak. And the other person said, I thought it was pretty good. And then they debate it, and then they come up with a final score. But I have, in terms of your question about pet projects, that I don't know. I'm sure they're not supposed to do that, but I couldn't really tell you for sure whether or not they do. Any other questions? Yes. Is there a certain certification if you want to provide grant writing services? You don't have to get one. There's the, what are they called? They recently changed the name. It used to be the National Society of Fundraising Executives. Now it's the Association of Fundraising Professionals, I believe. And they have, you can get a certificate from them to do this. But you don't have to have it. I don't have it. And I've been doing this forever. It costs a bunch of money. And I'd rather charge my clients less than spend a bunch of money on that stuff. Yes? Okay, let me do this, because I do want to answer that, but we have a whole section on grant writers. So let me do this grants.gov thing first and then get back to that. If I don't answer that, please remind me. Okay, let's go to the next handout, which is I believe it's one page back and front. It's from a website. It says side one on the bottom in handwriting, find grant opportunities on the top. Okay, this is the section where we talk about how do you find federal grant opportunities. The main way is to go to grants.gov. Now, if you're on side one of that handout, you see I have numbers written in circles. You'll click on the left-hand side where I have the number 1, find grant opportunities. And then this is the page that comes up. If you look where I have number 2, 26 federal grant-making agencies. If you click on that link, it has like a paragraph describing each of the federal agencies, such as the Department of Education, Health and Human Services, Housing and Urban Development, and so forth. So you can see a description of what the agency is, and then you can click from there onto their website and see what their grant-making programs are. If you go back to this handout where I have the item 3, you can click on browse by agency, and then you can, if you're interested in education, for example, you can click on that and see what funding opportunities are available from the Department of Education. And it'll give you a list, and then you can click on whichever ones are of interest to you. And when you get the list, you can sort it. If you click on closing date is basically the due date. That's generally how I would do it because I want to know how much time I have to to complete the proposal. Then if you go down where I have the number 4, search for Recovery Act opportunities. Again, same thing, but under that legislation. Now, one of the most important things on here is down at the bottom where I have 5 subscriptions. What you can do is sign up for, let's say you're interested in opportunities with the Department of Education and also Health and Human Services. By clicking on that, you can have them automatically send you an email letting you know when there's a new opportunity that has been announced. That way you don't have to remember to check at this website once a week or once a month or whatever. You will automatically receive these updates. That is really wonderful and a time saver. Then where I have number 6, which is on the left, closer to the top, get registered. That's where you would click on to register your organization to apply for federal grants. Okay, on the other side of this other handout, this is, if you click on Apply for Grants, this gives you an overview of what the process is. Number 1, download the grant application package. Of course, this is after you know what you're going to apply for. Then you complete the application package, and then you submit it. So you will download some documents to your computer, fill it out, and then you upload it to the system. And then it has a feature there where you can track what the status of your application is. So are there any questions on this? The main thing I would say for researching, to go to this site and just play around with it and see what all the features are. They also have info there, like instructions on how to do things and guidelines and all that, and questions and answers. It's a really good website. Oh, something I wanted to mention in this is that the federal government gives away $500 billion annually. There are more than 1,000 programs and 26 agencies. So there's no reason why you shouldn't be getting some of this money. Okay. Very quickly, I'm going to mention foundations. I've mentioned it throughout, but they're another source of grants. You have a handout that looks something like this, and that's for the Council of Michigan Foundations. It has excellent information in there, so please look at it when you get a chance. Okay, I'm going to jump over to working with a grant writer. There's no handout for this, I'm just going to talk. From experience, and of course, if you have questions, please ask. The first thing that you need to do before you even talk to a grant writer is decide whether or not you should apply for a certain grant. Do you meet all the requirements? Do you actually want to do the project? Sometimes the project may end up being more trouble than it's worth. If it doesn't quite fit with what you're doing, it may not make sense for you to try to do it. They may have requirements in there. I was just working with a group on an early Head Start proposal, and they provide childcare, but as part of that program, you also have to provide services to pregnant women. Now, maybe you want to provide services to pregnant women, that's fine. But if you don't want to, or you don't have the capacity, or for whatever reason that's something that you can't do, then you don't want to apply for that grant because it's required. So that's something that the staff, the board of the organization needs to sit down and determine before you talk to the grant writer. And so that means you really have to read through all the guidelines carefully and see whether or not it makes sense for you to apply. You don't want to find that out when you're halfway through the proposal, that there's something in there that you can't do.